And there's 2 committee members that need to leave early today, so once we get to the agenda, I'm going to ask to take some items out of order so we can make sure we get the voting items done as quickly as possible.
Okay. Good morning. We're going to get moving here. We'll start off with our attendance. Lori Vinacore, please.
Yes, Lori Vinacore, Alliance of Delray.
Radcliffe Brown, representing Technical Advisory Committee.
Carrie Brown, Budget Advisory Committee.
George Elmore, Economic Council.
Joseph Sanchez, Chief Operating Officer.
David Porter, representing Construction Oversight and Review Committee.
Leanne Evans, School District Treasurer.
David Dolan, Chief Facilities Management.
Heather Frederick, Chief Financial Officer.
Gordon Longhofer, CTA President.
Kristen Var Garcia, Office of the General Counsel.
Patricia Morales, Office of General Counsel.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. All right, we don't have any members of the public in the room, so I guess that's no public comments. Our public
Also, Patrick Franklin from the Urban League of Palm Beach County.
Oh, that's right. We
yes.
need to go through the
We
people online.
forgot virtual. Sorry about that.
And we have Paul Dumars virtual and Michelle Jacobs. And we also have Mrs. Brill representing the school board. And then a lot of staff.
As well as Mr. Frank.
And Patrick Franklin's online.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
Okay, good. We have a quorum. We will move along. Public comments. Any public comments? No one's in the room, so we don't have any public comments. All right, items for approval. I think we're going to realign the agenda here so we can get the voting items and the discussion items out of the way, then we can go back for the other general meeting items.
Right.
Anyone have any objection to doing it that way? Okay, seeing none, then we will reorder the agenda. Go ahead, Leanne.
Okay, and I'm going to skip over the minutes. I can bring those back at the next meeting. But I do want to go right into the presentation and give you a quick summary. Just the sales tax continues to be coming in ahead of schedule. We're at 127% of the projections at this time for this time frame, so well ahead. We still expect that we will sunset a year early. And the expenditures through March are $712 million, purchase orders at 108. Interest earnings continue to rise at $39 million. And this is the summary of the project budget report that we built in for you. And it does show there's 2.6 million of changes that we're going, actually, there's a total of 8 million. 2.6 is funded with sales tax, and then we have the other funds. So we're going to skip right down into changes. I do want to point out that the cost escalation update that you've asked to see, with the items included today, we will have tapped into 7.8 million of the 190 million set aside. So we're still well on target with where we'd expected to be. And the interest earnings can also help deal with any cost escalation as we move forward. So the plan modifications, there are a few this time. And I'm going to go through the first 3 and then let Mr. Dolan take over the rest. So the first one is for Riviera, West Riviera Beach High Elementary School. We're canceling that facility renewal project because we're rebuilding the school. We're doing a modernization. It will start in June of 2024 as soon as school is out. We've known this was coming. I didn't bring it to the committee earlier because we knew it would exceed student station costs, and there was a chance that we might need sales tax to help deal with that. But the legislature has extended that waiver for cost per student station through 2028, so we don't need to do sales tax. So the sales tax money that was earmarked for the facility renewal moves into sales tax reserves, and we're borrowing to build the new school. So that's PPM number 228. Sorry, these are a little out of order. 228, that was 226, 228. We're consolidating the facility renewal for Inlet Grove and Lincoln Elementary School. So the school board is moving forward. They've directed staff to move forward building a new Riviera Beach High School. And the high school is going to be located where Inlet Grove is currently located at. So Inlet Grove is going to eventually be moving into Lincoln Elementary, which we will remodel and add a new building to that site. So Lincoln would move there, and the students from Lincoln Elementary are moving into 3 other area elementary schools that are very close by, and they're all under-enrolled. So the plan for moving the which students to which school has not been finalized yet, but we will be, the plan is to take the money earmarked for Inlet Grove and transfer it over to Lincoln and spend it all on that site. And the Inlet Grove site will eventually, that school will be demolished and used for the new Riviera Beach High School. Any questions on that one before I jump? Actually, for those two are really, I classify those as changes to the capital plan. Those are significant changes. If not, I'll jump to the next one, which I'm excited about. All the facility renewals that were planned in 2025 and 2026, we have enough money in the sales tax reserve in 2024 to move all those forward right now. So rather than coming to you, I'm sorry to say this was selfish on my part. I was tired of bringing you all agenda items constantly to accelerate funds. Can we just accelerate them all? So that's what we're doing. We're moving them all forward. That means the construction department can go as quickly as possible to get all those projects done.
A lot of our contract terms.
Right. So when you look at the actual PPM documents, and I just want to show you this one, and then we'll move on. For this particular one, I have a summary. It's the changing of the funding, that we're moving all the projects up. It's 89.6 million. Part of it's coming from 25, and part of it's from 26. And the second and third page lists each individual school and how much is being moved forward for those schools. So all the backup is included in your package. So for example, Westgate, there was 2 million that was supposed to be funded in 25. We've moved that into 24. So the work can start right away. So there's 55 million that was planned for 25 and 34 million that was planned for 26, total of 89 million. And we've just done a swap with the sales tax reserve. So the sales tax reserve is going down in 24, and then it's going up for 25 and 26. That's when we need it for cost escalation anyway. So rather than having the money just sitting there, we're applying it to the schools.
So I know construction department probably can't get all of that work done, even though you're moving it up in terms of the same time period. So is that money sitting in something that's interest-bearing?
It's exactly the same as it was with sales tax reserve, so it is earning interest until it gets spent. It'll be earning interest. And we're working with purchasing to try to expand the number of contract vendors that we have to try to get this work done. I think there's a question. Ms. Jacobs?
Yes, hi. Thank you for sharing this with us. My question to you is, if we are accelerating these projects, which I think is the right thing to do, when the sales tax ends, I know right now you have on the ballot for what we're calling a renewal, but it's really a new tax for the half penny again. All the projects that were originally earmarked for the first 10 years will then be completed, and is there a new list of projects that you need to do with this penny tax that's going to be coming beginning, when it sunsets?
Yes,
It's
there
going
is
to be on the ballot this year.
There is another project list, and we're going to share that. That's the last thing on the agenda today, and if we have time, we'll go through that with the committee. Thank you very much. But this will finish up the projects that were on the 2016 sales tax. This is all the facility renewals, so they would move forward. It's not every project. There's some construction projects that are still planned in the future years. It's just picking up, this is all the deferred maintenance and what we want to get done as quickly as possible.
Is the interest you're earning on the invested money balancing out with what we're seeing inflation to be, or inflation is still a higher percentage than our interest bearing?
Inflation is still higher, and that really goes back to this cost escalation plan that we developed and talked to the committee about back in September. And I'm happy to bring that back in another meeting to go through it again. But we were able to shift some projects from sales tax into borrowing and take into account the extra money, because the funds are coming in faster than expected, and we expect it will be a little bit more than we originally anticipated. That money is set aside in this cost escalation fund. Some of it is now coming in FY '25 and '26, but we had a total of $190 million set aside to deal with deferred maintenance. And that's the bucket we've only used 7.8 of so far. But the cost escalation, the farther we go, the more we're seeing those prices come up. So every time I hear of a price coming up, I'm saying, we've got to keep in mind, there's a lot more projects coming. So we're keeping that number low, but we will be tapping into that money more and more as time goes on.
Well, that's another good reason for pulling the other projects up closer, because
is.
the further out we go, the higher they're going to cost.
Yes, that was one of the conversations we had. If we move them up, we can get them done faster.
More vendors.
Right. So are there any questions on these three PPMs? These are the big ones, and then we've got a few more that Mr. Dolan's going to go over.
Do you want a motion and a vote on those before we go further?
We can do
or
them all.
do
This
them
is,
at the
this
same
is the
time?
rest of them.
Okay.
There's only 5 more. So, Mr. Dolan, I'll let you walk through these.
Okay, good morning, everybody. The first two, Hagan Road and Plumosa, are both increases for waterproofing, which is basically painting. We're working on, again, this pretty much goes to what Ms. Evans is just talking about, is this is something that we could pull, we're pulling these things forward because we have a term vendor who can do the project right now. So we're pulling additional monies forward on these two. These are actually budget increases. And that's primarily because our costs for painting
Right.
have continued to rise.
And we probably will have another increase on these 2 projects as they get ready to award the major construction contractor that's doing the rest of the deferred work. This is just the painting, so, or we call it waterproofing. It's waterproofing, sealing, caulking, everything on the outside of the building. What we're trying to do is, if there is pieces of the projects that we can move forward and get done, we're trying to do that. So I did go back and said, can we get an estimate for the total project? That way we only bring it to ISSOC once, and unfortunately, it's too early.
Yeah, though, both of them are too early. We're still in the design process, going through there to get to a GMP, which is probably 6 months from now. So we weren't able to put a number, at least the number that I would want to ask the committee for with
Right.
that expectation of being fully covered. The next one, Roosevelt Middle School, is more of a substantial budget increase because it's more for, it's basically the one that's at the point we're about to go to GMP. And we have a number of mechanical scope items that the costs were higher, EMS controls and HVAC equipment. Classroom LED lighting, again, a slight increase in those, and interior finishes. That's generally, we're painting these buildings, which are desperately needed in this school. So that's a $2.5 million increase to the project.
A question on that.
Sure.
We're not doing any more deferring of scopes.
No, we're picking up all scopes now.
Right.
Yes, and that's why we're coming to you on each and every one of these for, if there's an item that we can't check off because we're short on money, we're absolutely coming to you now on these.
Okay.
Okay, well, do you want to touch on
I was just going to say,
Roosevelt?
those 3 are funded from the sales tax reserves.
That's-
The next 2 are funded with comps, but they're on the referendum list, so we wanted to bring them to you. So-
Okay, and Historic Roosevelt, that's a project that's just getting underway now. The demolition, we had our groundbreaking and our demolition is underway. This increase is intended to cover the original budget when it was established early on in the design, ended up being $5.4 million short because of a lot of our primary services, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing scopes. And so we're asking for additional money on there. But in addition, we had some environmental remediation that had to go on inside that gym that we're restoring. Plus, during the course of the design or later in the design, they came back to us and said, oh, you need more on-site parking, which forced us to change our drainage storage capacity, and instead of doing above-ground storage, which is nice and easy, these are now underground storage, much more costly. So those are the items that contributed to the additional cost.
Question on that. I think just to refresh everybody's memory, we're saying above budget, and that budget was established, 2016?
Correct.
From a bunch of guesses. It wasn't a budget that was actually, 40 line items and somebody actually estimated what things were going to cost.
That is correct. That is above budget, but I will acknowledge that some of these costs are costs we've encountered in the last several years with escalation, just price, material shortages and such. That's why I say the mechanical, electrical, plumbing scopes were changes from what happened. It's probably $2.5 million worth of the 5 for just standard increases over the course of the last year or two.
Okay.
And the other ones were unforeseeable in design, so. And then the last one is Winbrook is a $2.6 million increase. I'll I'll take the hit for this one. Basically, what this was when we were organizing and planning our budgeting. For many of you may know, we have a holding school, a holding campus at Crestwood. And when we were organizing and planning this, this holding school was a holding school for Malaluka first, and then now it's a holding school for Winbrook. When we were moving all the monies around and making sure that we had rented portables, we had the right amount of rented portables on that holding campus, we errantly omitted the second half, the Winbrook, a portion of the Winbrook portables, the cost for those. So this is literally just an update to make sure that we accounted for those funds. It wasn't a design change, it was strictly a budgetary miss.
It's extending the lease of those temporary portables for another year till the project's complete. And those are funded from capital contingency. It's not sales tax and it's not borrowing either. It's money that we would normally have set aside for emergencies, and that's how we're paying for it.
I have a question. You went real fast into that last one. I had a question about the historic Roosevelt High School. It's 70 years old. The remediation, the environmental remediation, was that like asbestos?
Yes, it's everything. It's asbestos. We even have, we're working through some of the remediation on lead in lead paint. That's got to be taken care of before we ever get back in there.
Floors.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I will bet the asbestos is more flooring than it is, piping covering.
That is correct.
Vinyl asbestos tile was used up through 70s and even in maybe the early 80s before it was completely eliminated. So when you got a building that old and the tile floors are still down, you go to scrape them up, you got to remediate that with guys in moon suits.
Exactly.
And haul it away correctly, which is a lot more expensive than just throwing it in the dumpster.
So that's all the proposed plan modifications for this meeting. Are there any questions?
Ms. George, just for information, South Florida is going to be under I'll say a rationing of aggregate. The quarries are basically producing all they can, and the demand is higher than they're able to. So there's going to be a rationing or whatever you want to call it. So just be aware of it. It's coming.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. I
Yes,
hadn't heard that
I do
yet.
appreciate that, absolutely. We suffered that about 2 years ago on some of our projects because of the concrete shortage, and it was primarily, or one of the big things was shortage of aggregate. So I suspect they're going to continue. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Well, and even road base. That's accurate, yeah.
I'll motion to approve the PPMs, if you need a motion.
I do.
We do need a motion. Need a second? Second by Mr. Elmore. Any other discussion, questions? Okay. Anyone objecting to approving these? All right, they're accepted.
Okay. The next slide is just a list of things that we believe are coming in the next 3 months. We're going to skip over those, but we bring those to you because we may very well come back to you for ratifications for these contract awards. So I'm going to skip over those. They're in your packet. We're going to skip over all the pictures. I do want to very quickly go over, there's some questions about the upcoming referendum, and we really hadn't talked to the committee about that, so I want to do this, and I know 2 people have to leave, so I'm going to go as quick as I can, but stop me if you have questions, because I don't want to go too fast, but I want to value everyone's time. So the sales tax, we are asking for a new half-penny tax that, if approved by voters, would allow the district to continue to collect a half-penny totaling approximately $2 billion based on current collections, and be for security, technology, facilities, and infrastructure. The majority of it, and it's half of it, is going to be used for planned maintenance. The tax we have right now is dealt with deferred maintenance, and we've come to the conclusion there's no way we can keep up with maintenance without another revenue source. This new tax would begin after the current 1 cent tax sunsets, and we're expecting that to happen early in December 2025. This is the ballot language that was already approved by the school board and has been approved by the Board of County Commissioners and will be on the ballot in November. And the big question everyone asks is, why do you need it? Do you still need it? And the additional funding is needed to maintain the $30 million square feet and $9 billion of school buildings. We've got to make sure that we're maintaining those so we don't end up with another backlog like we did this time. The existing funding streams just are not sufficient, and there's no other funding options available for schools. The capital outlay millage that used to be 2 mils, that dropped to 1.5, so it's 25% less, that would equate to about $215 million a year, as opposed to the $200 million for the sales tax. If we could go back to the 2 mil levy, we wouldn't need the sales tax. This is really getting us back to where we used to be at. We also are dealing with unfunded mandates from the legislature. We do have to share all the money with charter schools now. That's going to be an estimate of $600 million over the next 10 years. And this is the referendum project list, and it does show half of it is for planned maintenance, and then the rest of it is going to be for school-based initiatives, security projects, technology projects, school buses, and about $200 million going to charter schools. It's chaired with charters on a per-student basis based on statute.
With that charter school sharing, do they have to validate what they're using the money for?
Yes, they would have to spend it in line with the referendum project list, and that's something new. We would be getting reports from the charters and bringing back to this committee. That happens with the IROC committee now. It's reviewed, their spending plan has to be approved.
Because I think previously they were just handed out a check and there was no validation of what they had to use it for, right?
Their statute, the capital outlay millage, they have to follow a statute. It's 101171 and 1013 tells them exactly how they can spend the money. This would be based on the referendum project list, and it would be based on the ballot language that the voters are approving. So they would have to limit it. It would have to be spent on planned maintenance, security, technology, school buses. So the same things we'd be spending it on.
Okay.
And it would be coming to this committee for oversight. So the current status, the school board's already approved the ballot language. The county approved it in April. We're working on scope validation of a facility condition assessment. We've done the preliminary work already, and this is the validation that's going out and checking school by school, putting their eyes on everything to validate every line item. We're undergoing a performance audit right now, and I want to thank Mr. Porter. They asked to speak with somebody from the Oversight Committee, so he met with the auditors last week for a little bit. So that's going on right now. We're providing a lot of information to them, and we expect they'll be here visiting us in May. And that whole process has to continue through the summer. And then the general election is scheduled for November 5th, 2024. Again, it would start in January 2026. You now have to take these items to the general election. You can't take it closer to when we need the money, so it's coming in early, but it wouldn't start until 2026, and it would be after the current tax ends.
Is the FCA assessment work being done with a consultant or
Yes.
in-house staff? Consultant?
Yes. It's Roth and Associates.
Roth IAMS.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions on, go ahead.
I have a couple of questions. Well, the first one you answered about, would this committee be continued then to be looking, you won't be looking for a new, I see that. How do you round it off when you buy something for $1?
I'm sorry, say that
How does it
again.
get rounded off if it's going to be 6.5% then?
Oh, they will round it to the nearest penny.
Well, what's the nearest penny, up or down?
It would be up.
It would be up, okay. And did they consider maybe a extra 1 penny tax for 5 years instead of a half a penny tax for 10 years?
Schools can only do a half penny
can
on their
only do
own.
it.
We can't do a full penny. The only way you can do a larger one is you're doing something like the local government infrastructure tax that we're doing now, and that's shared with the county and the cities. The only option that's available for schools is a half penny tax.
Okay. So it would be 6.5%.
Right.
Thank you.
So you go down saving 0.5% because we've been paying 7%.
Yes, and I did hear that the BCC did decide not to go ahead with another half penny. So this is just the school board.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
anything else on that?
Yeah, If I remember correctly, the half-cent sales tax was only on the first 5,000.
It's on the first $5,000 of any
Anything
sale.
over 5 reverts back to 6.
That's correct.
This will be the same way?
Yes, it will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, I didn't understand that. Okay.
It's important when you're buying a car.
Oh, yeah.
When I bought my last one, I talked to the dealer, and they said, we don't know that. It's calculated by our computer, and the salesperson had no idea when I was asking that.
Or, getting a new roof or whatever you have to
Yes.
get. 5,000 doesn't take much to get to that point anymore.
Yeah, and those rules are all set by statute, and it's managed by the Department of Revenue. They just send the money to us on a monthly basis.
I think in whatever not promotional, but informational material that goes out, that should be stressed.
Okay.
Because I didn't understand that was going to be in effect as well until just now.
Well, it's in effect with the tax we have now. All sales taxes are configured that way,
Okay.
or the discretionary taxes, the discretionary tax. The 6% is on all of it, but anything over is only for the first 5,000.
Okay. Any other questions about this for Leanne? Okay. What's up next?
The next meeting is August 23rd, and then November 8th. I would like to go back on the sales tax just 1 second and want to know if the committee is in support of doing that referendum, because we won't be meeting again until August. So I'm curious to see if the committee approves of that, or if you need more information and we need to bring something back to you again.
Anyone have objections or further questions whether the referendum should go forward?
I think I need to have time to study what you just presented.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay, happy to do that.
All right.
Do you need a vote of this committee, and would it wait till the next meeting and not be too late?
We have time to wait till the next meeting.
Yeah.
All right, then I would suggest we look over what's been presented, come back to the next meeting with any questions, and then we can go on the agenda to ask for a vote of this committee.
And if you have any other questions in the meantime, please feel free to let us know.
Okay, until people have to leave, you could probably go back up and do the sales tax report now.
I think they're anxious to leave. Ms.
Oh,
Jacobs,
okay.
I know, had at 10 o'clock. And you're on mute, Ms. Jacobs, we can't
I
hear.
think she's in her other meeting.
Okay. Okay, and I know Mr. Elmore has to leave, so I think we just need to ask for an adjournment.
Okay. All right, our meeting's over, so we are adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.